Welcome to Soul Thrive, where we explore spirituality through healing trauma, shadow work, and applying the laws of the universe in order to master ourselves without the fear of the unknown.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Soul Thrive podcast. Today, we are talking to Brigitte, a registered dietitian, women's nutrition coach. Brigitte helps women feel good in their bodies without dieting, restriction, or wellness trends that make you feel like you're never doing enough. She's worked with hundreds of women, has been featured in places like Vogue and Women's Health, and is known for creating real-life personalized wellness plans that actually work. So if you've ever struggled with your relationship to food, how you see your body, or the pressure to eat clean, this is going to hit home. I'm excited. Let's get into it.
Hi, Brigitte. I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you, ladies, for having me. I'm so excited for today.
Okay, let's dive into the conversation. Let's see what questions Ivana has organized for us. And obviously, me, I just go with the flow. I think people kind of caught that pattern throughout the episodes.
Love
The
it.
perfect team. The perfect team.
Well, first off, I'm curious, like, what is the most common concern or problem that women come to you for these days?
That's a great question. I think the most common issue that women face is really weight loss that they seek me out for. Either like postnatal, they just gave birth and they're like trying to figure out their bodies again, whether they are breastfeeding or not breastfeeding, right? Just they want to feel like themselves again and they don't.
Right.
And that's usually around the weight change of their body. And then non-natal related, just like living life, a change in job, stress eating, emotional eating, various things happen and people want to lose weight. They like lost track of how to eat well, or they never really knew or understood, but they had a really fast, quote unquote, metabolism when they were younger. And all of a
Right.
sudden it feels like it's catching up to them now. Or then later on in the life cycle around perimenopause
Mm-hmm.
stage, like when women will seek me out and be like, Bridge, I don't understand. My diet has remained exactly the same, but all of a sudden I'm like 5, 10 pounds heavier and I don't understand why. So I think that there's lots of root causes underneath and like lots of healing and relationship with food stuff that happens on underneath. But the on the surface concern is my jeans are too damn tight.
Right. I mean, I think about that because my relationship with food, we grew up in an environment Mediterranean household. So we ate a lot of like Greek food, but my dad was always like into the fried food and like and my mom was into like the sugary stuff. So we always had, and my grandmother too. Grandma used to have like cookies available all the time.
Yeah.
So we grew up in that type of environment where it was like just grab a cookie instead of eating something healthy, and I still have those bad habits even now. But it's so interesting, of course, as we get older, and now that I'm like 41, I really do register, even if I have like chocolate or something sweet really late, I notice a difference in my body and my sleep.
Yeah.
Or, I'm eating something and like I'm now completely dairy free because I guess I've always had the intolerance my whole entire life, but you don't register it because we're so out of touch with our bodies for so long. And then when I hit 40, it was like, no, girl, you got to make some serious changes here. Your life has to like, because I couldn't understand why I was bloating up so much and why it was causing me so much other stressors on my body. So I'm really excited about this conversation. And I do think like we have to, as we get older, I think because our bodies change so much, have a healthier dynamic with food and register our food addictions and our patterns. And that's my journey currently. I'm sure that's your journey too. And
It's funny because we just talked about this before you came on, Brigitte, how most of us have been so uneducated. We just chatted about how in the 70s and 80s, it was totally okay to give your children cereal for breakfast. And that was like the thing. And that's pure sugar.
right.
And like,
I would eat Kellogg's cornflakes and then add sugar on top because my mom thought that was like a healthy thing. I'm like, woman, what are we talking about here?
yeah. So do you feel like just pure because I know there even like a few years ago, eggs were bad and now eggs are superfood. So it's like, what What the
I
heck?
know. What do we trust? What is true? What is not
Yeah.
true? Right?
That's such a good question. What is true? What is not true?
Yeah.
I think nutrition is a science, right? And so, like science changes. We do new research, we find out new
Hmm.
things, right? It changes, it shifts. With the egg example, right? There was an increase in cholesterol happening
Hmm.
in particularly in America.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And so researchers were like, oh, well, what's happening? Everyone's eating eggs for breakfast. And now everyone's having high cholesterol. It must be the eggs. But what was also part of that breakfast in the like 60s, 50s, 60s was bacon or
Hmm.
sausage,
Hmm.
was a buttered biscuit, right? So it wasn't actually the egg, it was everything else on that plate. But eggs got a really bad rep because it was grouped together with like this high cholesterol. So a few decades later, they are redoing the research around it. They're looking at dietary cholesterol sources, right? Meaning foods that have quote unquote high cholesterol. And what does that look like for our blood serum cholesterol? And it turns out that eggs are not the culprit, right? That eggs are actually an incredibly healthy food for us. They're a great source of vitamin D. They're a good source of choline, which is a micronutrient that helps boost cognition. They're a great source of lean protein. So yes, it sounds and feels like things are always changing because nutrition is a science. And so when you work with a registered dietitian, they understand the science, they understand um, how to read through the research
Right.
and look at like what's actually happening here. Um, but like what you mentioned with having cereal for breakfast, there are also just like trends of society.
That's
It
true.
was the trend of society for like quick, fast breakfast so you can get out the door and get to school quickly and
Hmm.
right. And it was better to eat breakfast than to not eat breakfast. So how can we make this really fast and quick? And there is a it's funny because I think there's so much nutrition knowledge today
Of
out
course there
there,
is.
right? There's
Yep.
so much nutrition knowledge, but there is not a lot of nutrition wisdom, right?
That's so true.
And like the
Yep.
wisdom of like what does this really mean? And there's a big difference between doing the right things and doing the right things for you. And so understanding what that looks like because for some people, having two eggs a day is at 100% really the right thing for them. For some people, it's not. It depends on what other medical conditions they have going
Yep.
on. It also depends on their food preferences. Maybe they don't like eggs. And the idea of like, oh, this is a superfood that everyone's having and I have to eat it because I want to look like J-Lo or Kim Kardashian. I want that like tiny little itty bitty waist like that. So there's a big difference. And I think the lack of understanding between like what is right and what is right for you is where this disconnect comes through when it comes to a lack of education or nutrition education, a
Hmm.
lack of like nutrition wisdom versus when there is now so much information out there.
Do we find that the wisdom part could also be like tuning in to your intuition, like eating intuitively and knowing your body, right? And becoming aware of that language that's kind of being communicated on that unconscious level. Like I didn't know for such a long time. Like dairy was always like recommended, like go have dairy this and dairy that. And then you realize, no, my body's just not good with it. It was good with it as much as it could be. And now it's like you got to tune in intuitively and become aware of that. Same thing, like I don't have an issue with gluten. There's no issue with gluten. I actually prefer gluten-free at times. However, if it's a regular pasta, I'm fine with that. There isn't an issue, but I also don't excessively crave carbs. Like just intuitively, I'm not someone that's going to go towards wanting bread or pasta. I'm more like fresh salads and fruits and a smoothie. It's just something innately in me. And it's been like
Yeah.
that since I was a kid. So I wonder too if we just kind of tuned in
Hmm.
a little bit more and used all the knowledge, but the wisdom. Do you think that maybe it would be more of that intuition as well, kind of thrown
Yeah.
into the mix?
100%. So, something that all my clients know me for, quote me in saying, is that Deprivation does not lead to weight loss. Awareness leads to weight loss, right? Becoming really, really aware. So for you, becoming aware of dairy's effect on you, right? Paying attention to how you feel when you eat certain foods. Something that could be really helpful with your audience is if they're thinking that they're feeling like they're constantly bloated, or maybe something's off, or maybe there's a food trigger that they're not sure of what could be happening with it, is to keep a food journal. Keep a food journal, write down everything you're eating, not from a place of judgment, but from a place of awareness. What am I eating and how am I feeling? Track your symptom, whether it's bloat or acne or just like kind of brain fog, sluggishness, whatever it is you might be feeling. To create that awareness, we want to try to isolate some variables. So keep a food journal, diary, call it whatever you wish, and track your symptoms and see what you can connect the dots with. I will say similarly, Christina, I grew up drinking milk. My mom was a big milk pusher. It's good for your bones and you'll grow tall. And I'm like, I'm only 5'3", but sure. Right. Like,
right. Right.
So much for that, Mom.
True. That came true.
You could get taller.
Right. But it wasn't until honestly that I was in nutrition school. So milk and dairy had been a huge part of my life always. Yeah. I never thought twice about it. I grew up in a home with a really good, healthy relationship with food. My mom wasn't always dieting. It just was like there. We ate together. Everything was fine. But while I was going through nutrition school, just for my own personal awareness or like experiment type mind, I was like, you know what? Let me take dairy out of my diet for 2 weeks, see what happens. Also, so I know what it's like for my clients. If and when I have to suggest that for them, sure, I can also relate to it. And so I took it out of my life for 2 weeks. I didn't notice anything. Nothing changed. I didn't notice a single thing. Fine, great, awareness. When I put it back in, that's when I was like, oh, this does bloat me. Oh, this is why I've been breaking out. So sometimes we don't even realize if it's something we've grown up doing.
Of course,
we don't even know that that could be the thing because we've done it our whole lives. We don't know that there could be anything else. So playing around with it, and sometimes if you're noticing on this food journal of yours that you think it might be the dairy, you think it might be the gluten, you think it might be something, an egg, take it out, and try it out of your lifestyle for 2, maybe even 3 weeks. And even if you don't notice a change there, see what happens if you put it back in, right? Getting aware, like really, really trying to understand, because you are the expert on you. No doctor, no dietitian, you are the expert on you. So trusting your gut instinct, trying to create more self-awareness, right? And if you think something is off, something is off.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I love this test and learn approach because I actually did something similar when I came. So in Europe, I find everybody knows this, like dairy is different. So having lived in Canada over the last like 15, 20 years, just dairy always had made me bloated. And so I was like, oh, let me try oat, almond, whatever, all the alternatives. Hated the taste of everything except for oat milk. And then I just started drinking oat lattes, sometimes like twice a day.
Ooh, yeah, that's
for
a lot.
years. and then I was actually talking to our osteopath that we go to, and she's like, oat milk has so much sugar.
Yep.
And so when I looked, I was like, oh my God, this is actually like terrible. So she would say, have the oat milk, but then maybe go for a walk right after, just to sort of like avoid that spike. That's the spike. But then I started experimenting with different types of oat milk. So I don't know if you guys have Elmhurst.
We do.
Brand, and it's like 3 ingredients. It's like oats, water, and something else I forget. And the sugar content is actually so low that it doesn't even break your fast for those who are fasting in the morning, because I forget what's the limit to break the fast. I feel so much better. So again, I found a way to keep the oat milk, not go towards dairy, but then find a better alternative. And then when I went back to the coffee shop that we always go to, had the oat milk, the bloat, the lethargic feeling, oh my God, I can't even think. It was awful.
Yeah.
To your point, I had no idea before. So it's also looking at different brands and just the amounts of like sugar and whatever ingredients they have.
Yeah, becoming so the self-awareness with that both of you are illustrating so powerfully. And then what you just shared, like being a conscious consumer,
Yeah.
reading food labels. And you don't have to, you don't have to go crazy with like understanding food labels. What you want to look at, so what I do with my clients, my whole approach to nutrition is how can I make this so damn simple?
Oh, yes.
Right? Like how can I, like, there's so much out here, there's so much noise. What really matters in your day-to-day life, because we are too busy. We have too many things going on. It's like we're too busy. So how do I make taking care of myself? How do I make you taking care of yourself so simple and so easy? And what I will say is that if you are interested and wanting to become a conscious consumer, when you are reading food labels, look at the ingredients. Just look at the first three ingredients. I don't care about the rest of it. It could, however many it has, like you can get into all of that if you wish to. But if we're talking about like covering your nutrition bases, just like having a basic awareness for nutrition, look at the first three ingredients.
Right.
Are they foods that you
Can you
would
pronounce
buy?
them?
Not even sure, but like quinoa. A lot of people can't pronounce quinoa.
That's true. So true.
So not even the pronunciation, but are they foods? Like, meaning, could you go to another aisle in this grocery store and buy just that? Almonds, water, chocolate, pineapple, right? Like, can you buy them on their own? Are they foods? If the first three ingredients are foods, then this item is a better for you version than not. If you're looking for like a packaged item, of which any milk substitute is, right? Any bread product is. Bread does not exist in nature. We cannot pick a loaf of bread off the tree. It is a processed food. It's not an ultra processed food, but it is a processed food, meaning it is man-made. So are the first three ingredients foods? And that's a great place to build some awareness between what a better for you version is of this product overall.
I'm really loving sourdough bread. I love sourdough bread. I just like it, I think, for our gut health, and I like it for, I mean, I don't really, again, eat a lot of bread to begin with, but I love sourdough bread.
Yeah, same.
Because I feel like
Same.
it's so healthy for you. It's got like, and my brother-in-law actually makes it. He
Oh.
had a 100-year-old
Starter.
And I
People
started
are
laughing, like, what does
obsessed with their
that
starters.
mean? Right?
I
And he's
know.
like, yeah, it means like this is the good stuff.
It's expensive.
It's expensive. And it's the good. I'm like, great, make me sourdough bread, right? But I wanted to ask you a little bit more about like the gut and mind health combination, because I know that we talk a lot about it. I think a lot of people have this idea of what that looks like, or may have a perception of it, but not necessarily know what that actually is. Like, I know people are like, take probiotics, or, make sure that you're eating foods that are fermented or whatever. But I don't know, what's your perspective on some healthy ideas around that, and why is it's so important?
Yeah, great question. So I'm also very much, I stand the sourdough. I love it. I'm here for it. What makes sourdough bread a gut healthy food is because it's, for those who don't know, who are listening, who don't know, it's fermented. It's a fermented food. And fermentation creates probiotics. Probiotics are the good for you bacteria that grows in your gut that pushes out and kills the bad bacteria that grows in there. So why so often when people, I will think, where do I want to start with this? Okay. So feeling bloated is a common symptom, almost to the point where a woman is like, I'm just always bloated. It's just like their norm. Being bloated is their norm, even though it's not normal,
Right.
it is their norm. And while, yes, a lot of that can come from the food that you're eating, and a food journal will help figure that out. Working with a dietitian will help figure that out for you. A lot of what happens up in our brains is we feel it and it affects our guts, and then vice versa. So what does that mean? When we are stressed out, we can feel bloated. When we are overwhelmed, right? When we're feeling emotional, sometimes you might A great example of this, like in your everyday life, is when you're really nervous, you have to pee a lot, right? Or
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
or when you're really nervous, you get constipated. Those
Mm-hmm.
are all, right? It's this connection between what's happening up here and what's happening down here. And the reverse can happen too, meaning if you have a diet that's really high in sugar, and that could be savory sugar or sweet sugar. Usually when I say the word sugar, people only think of the sweets. And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"No, what do you mean? I don't have a sweet tooth. That's not me," even though they're housing bagels and potato chips, which again, I love both of
Yeah.
those things. I love both of those things, but they're also a form of sugar. They're just savory versions. And if your diet is too high in sugar, too low in protein, too low in fiber, that can trigger brain fog. That can make you like that could dull your memory. It can make you
Mm-hmm.
not as focused and not be able to pay as much attention when you're out and about during the day, working, trying to have conversations, right? So what happens in your gut affects your brain, and what's happening in your brain, the stress, the anxiety, depression, that affects your gut too. So making sure that we are taking care of both places is essential. So eating foods that are fermented, like the sourdough, if you can handle, if you're comfortable with cow's dairy, plain Greek yogurt is a really good fermented food. If not, miso is great,
Mm-hmm.
kraut is great. Um, you know, and you could also take a probiotic as a supplement. I'm a big believer in food first, but supplements second. So adding in a supplement, making sure the healthier your gut is, the healthier your moods will be, the less mood swings you'll have,
Mm-hmm.
the less cranky you'll feel because adults get cranky too, let's face it.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Morning
so
kids.
Yeah, it's true. More than kids, for
that,
sure.
yes, right? The better you'll sleep. So taking care of your gut will ease up some of the brain stuff, especially if you're having brain fog, if that's something that's going on for you. And then taking care of your brain, your stress management is hugely important, and that will ease some of this like constant forever bloat that you're feeling. The more stress management you have in your day, the less bloat you'll feel throughout your
Mm-hmm.
day
That's
as
very
well.
true.
And one of the things people often complain about, and I used to have this about 5 or 6 years ago, that mid-afternoon crash.
Mm,
Like you're at work, it's like
mhm.
2 p.m. I want sugar, or I want a second oat latte, or I want something to pick me
Or
up because I'm
caffeine or
feeling,
chocolate or a
yeah, like I'm
muffin.
feeling
I used to
restless.
go grab like muffins
Yeah.
or like just chocolate, like an actual chocolate bar. Oh my God, so bad.
Yeah. And
I think about that now and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. But I did. It was my go-to.
like I don't remember what I did because it was such a long time ago, and that doesn't happen anymore. But I'm curious what and not that there's one reason why that happens, but if you see that in women, what are typically the reasons why they get that mid-afternoon crash and what can they do about it?
Yeah. Fabulous question. So ideally for women and for depending where you are on your life cycle, women's hormones work best when we eat consistently throughout the day. So something like every 3 to 4 hours. Now that can be time based, like you can contain that within breakfast at 8, dinner by 5, dinner by 6. You can contain it within a 12-hour eating window, right? Um, but women's bodies and hormones respond best to eating consistently throughout the day. Intermittent
Hmm.
fasting, while that is a craze, and like the biggest component proponent of, if it works for you, keep on keeping on.
I was
That's what
going to
matters.
ask you about
That's what
that later,
matters.
but I'm
That's
glad
what
you're
matters
bringing it
I
up.
don't
most.
Yeah.
believe in it.
Yeah.
Just saying. I don't. I
Individually,
personally,
for you, it doesn't work,
I
right?
don't, I honestly don't think it's something that, and I'm just saying from a spiritual perspective, it's actually really not that great for females. For men, I think it's fabulous because let's just call a spade a spade. Men need to detox their thoughts a little bit more and their emotions. Let's call it for what it actually is. But spiritually speaking, women, we are already detoxing when we're going through a monthly cycles. And even if a woman's going through menopause, she's sweating and her body is changing so much, she's still releasing all the
Hmm.
toxins and everything else. So intermittent fasting, I don't believe is a good thing for women.
I agree.
Hormonally, it just really isn't.
Hmm.
It also there's a psychological aspect to this too. Like you're telling yourself again, there's an element of starvation there
Restriction.
and a restriction. And I think from
Mhm.
like even just that emotional traumatic experience by the reiteration of like, I'm depriving you of food. And you don't think of it from that mental perspective whatsoever. In your perspective, you're thinking you're doing something really good for yourself. But if you have a poor relationship to food, if you have body dysmorphia, if you have all these other aspects of trauma, comparison alone, you should not be doing it. And because it really is, you're reiterating. And I think about this from like an inner child perspective too. What are we telling that little version of you that exists within you? They're thinking starvation. They're not thinking like there's a detox or spiritual evolution, all of that. I do know from another perspective spiritually that people have gone on fast, or is that the whole fasting and all of that that comes with it too. But that's more of just like this sacrifice, this way of saying, I understand what that journey looks like. Anyways, but I just don't think it's a good thing to do at all. As
I agree. I agree. It's not something I would ever recommend.
Sorry,
It's not something I would ever recommend. The research has shown, and then with my clients, like anecdotally, I see it constantly. Women respond best when we eat consistently throughout the day, like I said. So you want to aim to eat every 3 to 4 hours. The 3 p.m., like right afternoon, it's usually around 3. The 3 p.m. crash is because you're fucking hungry. Food is energy. Food is fuel. That is how your body has energy. It's the only thing that gives your body energy is eating food. So when you are having this slump and this crash, the ideal scenario is that you eat food, you give your body energy before that slump happens, so that you're not desperate looking for the chocolate bar, the muffin, the things that will give you a sugar bump, an energetic bump, but they're not giving you any real nutrition. So that bump isn't sustained. That like boost of energy isn't sustained. You'll have a little bit of energy, but then you'll crash again.
Which makes people overeat. I mean, like then you're like dinner time, you're starving and you're not satisfied.
Exactly.
And sometimes people consume too much because of that.
For sure. So when this like afternoon slump, whether it's 3 p.m. for you or 2 or 4 hits, you want to have a snack. Enjoy a snack. Pair a quality protein, hummus, a cheese stick, an egg, nut butter, plain old nuts. Pair a protein source like that with a source of fiber, like a banana, an apple, a piece of whole wheat toast. Pair it with a source of fiber, and that way you'll get a really good energetic boost, and a sustained energetic boost. It will carry you through until dinner time. And then dinner, again, ideally is like a protein source and a fiber source.
Right.
And that's how we keep our energy up. That's how we prevent the afternoon slump. And that like, I need to eat something. Where are the M&Ms?
Yeah. Right? Oh my God. Do you remember my M&Ms? I miss them so much. For those who know, they know. I think I love bags worth of M&Ms.
Yes. And here's what I'll say. I love my peanut M&Ms. I have them at the movies. They are a movie snack. They are not an everyday 3 p.m. snack. They have my M&Ms live in a specific place for me, and that's at the movie theater.
Right. So just to end that conversation on fasting, because I mean, personally, I don't do it. Like I don't eat the first thing when I wake up. I'll give myself an hour, hour and a half, and then have a protein heavy breakfast. And I feel like one of the reasons why I'm not feeling the afternoon slump anymore is because I'm loading up on protein, breakfast time, lunchtime, and then I'll have my like snacks, healthier snacks throughout. But this whole thing about autophagy, I mean, it's all over the internet. It's all over Instagram. Dr. Mindy Peltz is always talking about, you got to fast. And if you hit the 72, I mean, I've never done it. I've never fasted more than 16 hours. I felt like I wanted to faint. But she's saying, if you can push through the 72 hours,
is
that's
that the
when
woman
your cells...
that looks like really aged? No, sorry. I'm sorry. I don't want to take advice from somebody who looks like they're like so, you could see it in her face. Like I think, I have so many opinions. God, I'm so
No, I
mad
love
right
Triggered
it.
now.
something
I
now.
love
Well,
it. I love it.
I can't because like I hate. I mean, this is the aspect of me when I'm an intuitive and I'm a psychic and I'm reading everyone's energy and I'm hearing the stuff that they're saying, and then and like even if there's science that backs it up, I look at like every other thing that science has backed up. That now we need to go back and re-examine. So different than the conversation we had today about
Yeah.
alcohol.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, at one point in time, science backed it up that having a glass of wine while you're having dinner was actually really good. Now it's the one reason why.
And now it gives you cancer.
Now it gives you cancer.
In a world where everyone is throwing their 2 cents at you,
Mhm.
everyone is giving you their
Yes.
opinion, everyone is giving you their 2 cents. You should only be taking advice from someone who, on what you believe, like mimics something you're looking for. Right? It like
Or maybe
so
even has gone through it to
right, has
say,
gone
right?
right. So
Like they've
right,
actually gone through it to the degree where I could say, oh, you actually tried that you had cancer. You did this. It worked.
right. So it mimics the experience you want. You've had it, they've survived it. This is one of the ways they think that contributed to it, right? So it's the same way, like I would never take business advice from somebody who doesn't own their own business. Why
Right.
would I ever do that? I'm an
Exactly.
entrepreneur, right? So the same thing. I would never take dating advice from a friend who I think is in a shitty relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I do that?
Mm-hmm.
So we want to, whoever's advice you are seeking or quoting or looking to, do they have their outcome? Is that really something you're looking for? And so I don't know who this person is, but if she looks older than her age, and that's not the vibe that you're looking for, maybe that's not the
No,
advice you
but
want to go with. But
yeah,
I
that's the truth. I mean, you're being very polite about a lot of things right now, which is super sweet. But I do understand like there's a level of it too where we have to use discernment a little bit. I think like we have to discern. There's a lot of information out there. I even say that with my clients too. I'm like, I know I'm telling you this right now, but use your discernment. If this doesn't resonate with what I'm saying to you right now, you choose what's right for you, right? That's what
absolutely,
matters the most. It's not so much
absolutely.
I have my opinions about so many different things and it can be also overwhelming too to listen to this and to that. I think that if someone is going through cancer, they're going through something like that, if this is something they have to do to try it, then so be it. Like, yes, go try that experience, have that experience, do what you need to do to see whether or not it's going to work for you. But I don't think an average woman who's healthy and who's, you know, active throughout her day and is managing work and household and children and all these other layers that come with that experience to then add something like that again. I think it's a reiteration of that, just like that depletion aspect of things,
Yeah,
right? And we want to love ourselves up, I
a
think.
100%. And
You know, like I
a
think that's
1,000%. We want to love
what's
ourselves
most
up.
yeah, that
And
for me
Mm-hmm.
matters more than
Totally. Because I think what's happening is and I have a lot of girlfriends who they wake up in the morning, they fast, then they do the cold plunges and they do the saunas and they do that. Like there's like so much. And there's also not thinking about your cycle.
no.
Because like you eat,
Yes.
actually, that's one of the questions I wanted to ask in terms of,
yeah.
do you ever tell your clients to modify their food based on the phase in their cycle that they're in every month?
No, that's a great question. I'm going to come back to that. I just want to tie up this intermittent fasting thing and
Mm-hmm.
just say that the majority of research, all research, all science research, in particular, what nutrition research, because that's what we're talking about. So that's what I know the
Mm-hmm.
most about. But all research, the majority of research is done on men. So if we
My
want,
point. Thank you very
Mm-hmm.
much.
so when it comes to intermittent fasting and its effects on women's hormones, right, which dictate our entire life,
Mm-hmm.
regardless, like whether you think they're imbalanced, you think they're out of balance, they're shifting the balance. No matter where you are with them, no matter whatever your relationship is with them at the moment, they dictate everything. How we lose weight, how we gain weight, our moods, right? Everything. So keeping in mind that you want to be taking advice from someone who understands research on women
Which is
and
very little.
right. and who looks for that, who looks for research studies from like that are done on women so that we can give you advice based on science-backed research on women. So the proof of intermittent fasting being a huge benefit for women isn't there. Again, I will say if it works for you and you love it and it's not stressful, it fits your lifestyle, great. If it's stressing you out, that's not wellness.
Yeah.
If you're spending more time trying to fit your routine into this intermittent fasting vibe, that's not wellness. That's not a sustainable approach. Whatever you're doing to feel your fucking best, that needs to fit your lifestyle, not the other way around.
And you got to check in to see how you feel after that
Yeah,
as well.
100%. With
And
everything,
and there's
awareness.
so much truth in the fact that there isn't enough research when it comes to women's health.
Yeah.
Guys, literally, they still do not know. There's so much about us that they still do not know.
Correct.
And that's sad. And
Yeah.
yet we're being told, try this, do this,
Well,
have that, go here, do. And I'm like, I don't want to. Stop it.
right.
I
think
just
we're
want
being
to, right? Simplify
Yeah.
it. So, like, and I like your approach about it. It's like the simplicity of it. It's the wisdom that you know, checking in with that, having the awareness of what works for you. And we're not judging at the end of the day if somebody wants to do it. I said, if you want to have the experience, you're going to go tune into that, but don't start letting that become your way of thinking that that's health and vitality and wellness when it may not actually be that whatsoever.
Yeah. I
So
love
what was
that.
your, yeah,
It was
I'm
about
going
the
to come back to
cycle.
that.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
the cycle part, which goes back to like, we don't have enough research around women's health.
Yes, it's all one big juicy circle. One other thing is when you're being told this, you're being told that, also pay attention. Is that person also trying to sell you something? Are you
Yes.
being told and sold? Right? So are they selling a particular routine that you have to pay XYZ for your fasting? Are they selling you a supplement that goes along with their fasting approach? Are they like what are they selling you in addition to giving you all this advice?
Yep.
So that when it comes to our cycles, every person is going to be different.
Of course.
So I when I work with clients, we're always focused on a whole foods based approach. Mediterranean diet, right? Lots of plant-based proteins like legumes, beans, lots of veggies, lean animal-based proteins, fish, eggs, a little bit of chicken, white meat, organic when you can, but if you can't, that's okay too. Eating vegetables is more important than eating organic vegetables. If you have the means and the capacity,
Right.
fuck yeah, do it. But again, I'm here to make everything simple. So those are the pillars for everyday living, and that won't change based on the time of your cycle, like whatever phase you're in of your cycle. That won't change. What I will say is that what does change is that we do have increased cravings because our metabolism is ramping up naturally, like 3 days before you bleed. So you might notice that your cravings are a little bit higher. Your energy levels absolutely dip when you have your period. So you might notice that you crave more carbohydrates because our bodies are so damn smart and our bodies know carbs are like a quick form of energy. There are quality carbs like our fruits and our whole grains, and there are more less nutrient dense carbs. We'll call them, right. We're going to be politically correct with our food groups,
Right.
Right. And so that could be the cookie, and if you need the cookie, get the cookie. It's not right. So paying attention to your energy is what matters. Sleeping when you need to sleep, and maximizing your energy during the phases where you have like your luteal phase where you're like more energetic, like paying attention to like where your peaks and valleys are in that form. Seed cycling is like a really buzzy term right now. It's bullshit. Seeds are always important.
Right.
Seeds are always a healthy food. They are
Yep.
healthy for women with our hormones balancing all the fucking time.
Yeah.
So hemp seeds, chia seeds, ground flax seeds.
Yep.
Always great. There's no, the thing with like every fad, every trend is that they take like a tiny little kernel of truth and then they expand on it till it no longer has the truth, and they're
Yeah.
selling, and then they sell you
Yeah.
on it. So
That's so
the
true.
truth, the tiny kernel of truth is that seeds are always healthful and beneficial.
Yeah.
Always. The fact that you need to plan your cycle around the seeds that you're eating, that's bullshit.
Wow. I didn't even know that was a thing right now.
Oh my gosh, that is a thing. I'm sure
Wow. Oh
your
my God. I
listeners,
can't.
Yeah.
Please.
I'm sure your
Hurry.
listeners have heard of seed
No,
cycling.
I have not.
So paying attention to you, and is there food that you crave more? Sometimes people crave cooked foods more than raw, like salads when they have their period or when right after their periods. All that matters is that you are paying attention to you.
Mhm.
And again, maybe you want to keep a period journal. What do you crave when?
That's a good idea.
Getting
Yeah.
really,
I love that.
really familiar with like yourself, getting so fucking aware with
Yeah.
who you are at
Yeah.
every stage of the month.
Isn't that the whole thing?
Yeah,
Yes.
it always goes
At
back
the
to
end.
connecting to yourself.
Always.
Yeah.
It always goes back to knowing yourself, connecting yourself to yourself, attuning to yourself, having that inner wisdom, all of that. Any
All
other
of that.
questions?
Yeah.
Do you think
Well, I'm not gonna go ask about creatine now because I feel like that's
I don't know
What I-
much. Hey, listen,
No.
I
What
know. I had a today I popped off. It's been a minute. I loved it. I don't know any of that. So
It's also very much in the zeitgeist right now. It is a very popular supplement. In a word, no.
okay.
In a word, no. What I will say, a supplement that I think, again, food first, always, always, always. Whole foods, always, always. A supplement that most women are not on that should be on, that women can get a lot of benefit from for our moods, for our mental clarity and cognition, is magnesium.
I literally,
Okay,
I
good
knew
stuff.
it. I said it.
You
I was
knew
like,
it.
she's gonna say, no, I was like, she's gonna say magnesium. She's gonna say that.
Well,
And I
you
was
wouldn't
like,
be psychic, right?
I wouldn't be psychic if I didn't,
I had to.
Yeah, so funny.
I love it.
Bridget,
Yes,
thank you
yes.
so much for coming on to our podcast. We love this conversation so much. We're going to have all your info linked and people can connect with you to book an appointment with you. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Gosh, this was so fun. Thank you for
Thank
having
you
me.
so much.
I can't wait to talk to you guys more. I love this.
Thank you.